Well, hello there, and welcome to day 60 of A Film a Day with me, Jordan Woodley. And today I thought I would go back and cover the 1988 comedy original classic, Coming to America. Because, well, partly thought a lighter week to start. I haven't done a comedy in a while, and, well, there might be a film coming up very soon that has very direct relevance. I don't know. So, it's funny really, I was thinking about my relationship with comedy actors of the 90s. Like, you've got your Eddie Murphys, your Jim Carreys, your Martin Lawrences, your Will Smiths. Although Will Smith's not really a comedy actor, but, you know, and they were very defining in my youth. But the version of Eddie Murphy that I got was very much the one that would make sense for the time, which is as a kid growing up with films like Dr. Dolittle, The Nutty Professor, Dr. Dolittle 2, The Nutty Professor 2, The Haunted Mansion, and then, like any sane person, I tapped out before Norbit because, you know, I don't know how, but I knew that watching that would be a mistake. And, like all things, Eddie Murphy really faded into the mists as I got older, only to then return quite sharply with last year's film about the I don't know, really, exploitation filmmaker. I suppose he's not real. A blaxploitation filmmaker. What was his name? Dolomite, that's it. Dolomite Is My Name, which was phenomenal. And wasn't a comedy performance, was a serious acting performance. However, to circle back, my sort of relationship with the 80s Eddie Murphy, which really was your rawer, more mature, more unfiltered Eddie Murphy before he sort of went into family fare, is limited, really. I remember seeing Coming to America as a teen and thinking it was funny-ish, but not really getting it. I think I felt a lot about 80s comedies in that way when I was a teenager. Like most teenagers, something that came out before you were born is bad by definition, because why not? Except Star Wars, weirdly. But the point being is that I clearly had one of those sort of resentments against that kind of style, and maybe I wasn't mature enough, because watching it now, I actually forgot how mature it is. You know, it drops several F-bombs throughout the film, and of course with the sex jokes, you know, I don't remember it quite being as adult as it is, to the point where I was talking to Helen about, was the version I saw like one of those daytime ITV censored versions, because I had such a lack of memory for some of the very explicit jokes that, or verbally explicit jokes that that actually I found them quite funny to watch this time. What was also funny, on a side note, was that Helen and I both had different weird experiences with the film, in terms of she, having seen it, doesn't remember having seen the first 20 minutes, 15 minutes of it, and only remembers it as it sort of gets into sort of the depth of it. Whereas I remember it from the beginning, but I really couldn't remember the last 15, 20 minutes. So it was quite nice to be able to watch it in its fullness, and, like I say, with this new perspective on it. And it's funny, really, because I think now, if I was to go back and watch 80s Eddie Murphy comedies, I think I would eat them up now. And again, this shows another glaring weakness in my knowledge, but I have not seen Beverly Hills Cop, and I know people laud that amongst Eddie Murphy performances. I did see Trading Places, although I've seen Trading Places several times throughout the years, and I just don't think I get it. As in, I get it on an intellectual basis. I just don't find it particularly funny for me. Again, maybe at some point through this, I might circle back around and watch it, but I'm not jumping at the opportunity because it wasn't that long ago that I saw it again, and I didn't enjoy it. Whereas Coming to America, I loved. I thought was great. I thought had a real understanding of. It used a very common narrative, the secret prince narrative, the idea of someone who was massively wealthy trying to find true love by pretending not to be. Which, weirdly, I feel like is a common trope, but I can't off the top think of examples where that's happened. But it feels like a really well used a motif, but really examines it in a fresh, revitalized way. And then there's the strange commentary, which I haven't noticed until this viewing, or considered, which is sort of the commentary on, I suppose, African immigration, in terms of the joke of it being, or the satire, is about the fact that Eddie Murphy is rich beyond our dreams, and yet because he is trying to act like a common person, he gets treated like someone who is off the boat, recent migrant who people treat with a bit of suspicion and disrespect. You have the love interest Lisa, her boyfriend, does really like passive aggressive things that are dismissive, and partly it's a class thing, but it's also, you could make you can't even say it's a racial commentary because it's a black guy treating another black guy, but simply less well, but simply because he is from a foreign country, and so stuff like that really sort of pervades throughout the narrative in a way that I thought was actually quite satirical, more so than I think I would have appreciated before. I also love the fact that, as much as this is Eddie Murphy at his, it's not his first leading role, but it's him being able to play to all of the strengths and all the things that you will see in later Eddie Murphy films. Really, you can relate back to Coming to America. Him playing multiple different characters, and kind of having that charming and at the same time slightly cynical kind of personality. It just has something that I really sort of look back at the films I remember seeing in my youth and going, oh, that's very what Eddie Murphy would become. Whereas something like Brooklyn Vampire, or maybe even like, I don't know with Beverly Hills Cop, but I can imagine that they are much more of the time for him and what he was doing. But my point being is that as much as this is an Eddie Murphy leading performance, Arsenio Hall is also phenomenal. He plays this fantastic support. And he matches Eddie blow for blow. He has a very similar arc. He does, as an actor, he's doing the same thing where he's playing multiple roles. He gets some great funny lines. And frankly, he's a better stuntman than Eddie Murphy, as is demonstrated in the fight scene at the beginning when they're training with combat, and you can see Arsenio Hall actually like doing some light stick movement, whereas they had to do a lot of editing to make Eddie Murphy look like he could go in hand-to-hand combat. So I thought that was quite funny. But like I say, Arsenio Hall is fantastic, and I know that most of the cast who were not most of, but the prominent cast members who were in the first one, that's Arsenio Hall, Shirley Heady, Shirley Headley, and James Earl Jones are all coming back for the sequel. But I'm so glad Arsenio Hall is, because I do think that if you're going to make a remake like this that retreads the ground of the original, the worry is that the thing that it'll lean more towards is, isn't Eddie Murphy phenomenal? Which he is. But I think any great lead needs a great framework of actors, and James Earl Jones is phenomenal in it. You know, it's a fairly small role, but what the function he serves is still quite amusing and quite a nice counterpoint to Eddie Murphy. He kind of plays that traditionalist, overbearing father, but without. He plays it in a way that's more amusing than one might have done. But yeah, I think this was a very fun film, and it's great. It is genuinely a great comedy that's just sincerely, it's timeless. And a cameo, a small role and a first role for Samuel L. Jackson, which was something I didn't even know, because I thought Samuel L. Jackson's first role was in Do the Right Thing. But just to see him pop in, it really feels like serendipity to have greats like someone like Samuel L. Jackson, who became what he did, you know, then showing up in this film in just a small blink and you'll miss it role. But yeah, I genuinely think this is a great comedy, and I'm really looking forward to seeing the sequel. And I'm really glad that Eddie Murphy's having a renaissance. You know, like I said, Dolomite Is My Name was one of the best films I saw. Gosh, was it last year or the year before? I can't even remember now, but I think it was last year. But it's I'm really pleased to see him doing this sort of resurgence and sort of experimenting with what he can do, you know, in the sort of new era that he's in as an actor. Anyway, take care. I'll see you tomorrow.